Isn't there a saying, do not carry the sins of your father? The core of the population, you can get upset all you want, but if you're allowing to permeate the misalignment and the misdirection of people, you have factors, cause, and effects. If you're allowing the same artificial causes to cause the same effects, really, you have to ultimately stop getting upset at the people being destabilized and get more precise about the artificial symptoms that you're allowing to permeate locally, across the major cities, continentally, in the particular civilization. If you want a better state of existence, like a tangible, better state of existence, where the word, it's not just the word better, where you can tangibly see the reasons as to why this is much worthier. This is a much efficient state of existence for the core of the population and not for the specific corrupt oligarchs' bad apples. Because them bad apples fear when the core of the population becomes more competent.
When you become more competent, you figure out the ways to look in the right places. And when you look in the right places, again, it makes it more difficult for the worst of the worst bad apples to go unchecked. Because then, the actions naturally, tangibly progress to you making a stronger network.
When you make a stronger network, guess what? Those bad apples, they don't have sufficient reminders of their humanity, because they don't have people around them to give them sufficient reminders. They don't have people that can give them a nudge. They just have too many yes people. This is why they end up spiraling, and they end up indulging in things such as human trafficking, sex trafficking, and organ harvesting. They lose their humanity, and they spiral down that, and when they have no one to check them, and they go too unchecked, you end up seeing the tangible repercussions of that, the tangible ramifications of that. Right now, it's networks versus networks. It was never about a state or a continent. It was never that. It was never a population versus population thing. No. It was a bad apple issue on each continent, and each continent having to, sooner rather than later, figure out and make tangible tools to counterbalance the worst of the worst bad apples across the continents that are not just weapon contractors. They're nothing more than civilizational viruses. They're not elite because they're reliant on the core of the population, and they're reliant on extracting large percentages of the core of the population's currency in shady, inexcusable, corrupt ways. That does not make them elite. What that makes them is civilizational viruses, their actions, how they go about misusing too much of the core of the population's extracted currencies, and the way that they've done too much inexcusable, corrupt power consolidation against you and the core of the population. And they've misused that power consolidation in tangible ways that the core of the population has been seeing for themselves. You and the core of the population have been seeing for yourselves in the particular civilization. It's right in front of you. There's already sufficient fellow credible grown adults that have, across the top of their information, have come forward onto podcasts and have been alluring the core of the population about what is tangibly happening. All the tangible correlations that show you the tangible, actual truth about what's happening across the continents and in the particular civilization. And if you want a specific type of state of existence, all you have to do is achieve specific levels of percentages and alignments. The greatest debates already happened. Now it's a matter of getting on the same page where it counts the most. And this is more than just a mantra. This is a required, overdue reminder. And we're going to continue articulating in many ways that can spark and resonate with the core of the population as we make a tangible, stronger network to counterbalance, to reclaim by our militaries locally, across the major cities, and continentally in the particular civilization. And you have to have a comprehension. The worst of the worst bad apples going unchecked, you're seeing the results. When they're the ones that had the currency to be hijacking and misdirecting top fields of information, hijacking and holding hostage key fields of information, key sectors, key government sectors against you, when those government sectors are supposed to serve the population, not be weaponized against the core of the population. You're seeing the results for yourself. And you're going to have to set the example first in the United States melting pot. Or else the worst of the worst bad apples, they're going to keep destroying the US dollar because they don't care. This is why they have offshore bank accounts. This is the reason why they've been extracting too much of the core of the population's currency and throwing it into dead-end programs and offshore black budget projects strategically. They want you disoriented. They want you with lowered attention spans. They want you disoriented. That way you cannot become a more competent person because then that ripples out. At the small scales and at the grand scales, it ripples out. And a competent population that can make the required overdue informed decisions is a population that legally mobilizes in such a way it has not been seen before in a particular civilization. And it goes about declassifying everything. When you declassify everything, again, that leads to a more informed population. And the informed decision the core of the population is going to make is not riots, is not protests. It's going to be a new legal mobilization that has not ever been seen before in a particular civilization when the core of the population reclaims its military. The military is made out of our families, and no longer can you allow those bad apples to continue misdirecting your military because they're not trying to reverse debt. They're worsening debt for you so they can collapse this continent. It was never about a group. It was never about a species. It was about bad apples. And the bad apples, time and time again, when they collapse a continent and a civilization, they desperately try to get onto a different continent and they sneak and they change their identities. They use false identities. This has been too documented already. Too many credible adults have documented this tangible state of actual truth that a lot of core of the population is catching on to. And now it's your responsibility to comprehend that and add on to the knowledge and insights being shared in the discussion and in the blueprint, because you can no longer just be upset at people being destabilized. Get more precise about the artificial symptoms that you have to counterbalance and make legally eradicated now. You have to place the tangible tools that's going to give you the exact tangible results that you and the core of the population want. If you don't see a tangible tool in a particular civilization, you're going to have to figure it out because you have to update the mechanisms in the particular civilization. You and the core of the populations have to update the mechanisms. It's only going to come from those have actual incentive to boost the quality of life of the particular civilization. That means you're not going to get a significant tangible tool that can significantly nudge the physical reality and help the particular civilization. You're not going to get that from those that are not from the core of the population. Only those that are from lower and middle class that come from the core of the population feel the core of the population's pain, see it for themselves. I'm going to go about giving you tangible tools that's going to give you the exact results that there's no back and forth about it because those are the results. Those are tangible results. That's living proof. And so you have to gather living proof, and you got to place tangible tools that's going to give you the exact tangible results that you and the core of the population wants. That's going to benefit you and the core of the populations, and it's not going to benefit them. Specific corrupt oligarchs' bad apples are going to be counterbalanced and legally eradicated now. Comprehend those bad apples. The worst of the worst specific corrupt oligarchs' bad apples. They're going to misuse everything that they have at their disposal. So now you have to make it null. You have to make it void. All the extractive currencies that they hijacked, all the hijacking they did over the last 4 decades especially, you're going to have to make that null and void. And to achieve that, you've got to place one tangible new tool that's going to significantly help you in the core of the populations. And that new tool that's going to tangibly significantly help you in the core of the populations is the new open source ledger and accountability button, which is going to be able to significantly help you clean the environment, the physical reality, and the landscape of the particular civilization locally across the major cities and continentally. You're going to have to set the example first in the United States. And we get into the mechanisms of the new open source ledger and accountability button and how you making a stronger network and placing that tool. You don't have a back and forth. You don't have to riot. You don't have to throw protests. You don't even have to go to Congress. Congress is too compromised and itself has to be significantly updated. You cannot allow the worst of the worst geezers who have been too complicit. And they're in their 50s and 60s to tell you what's right and wrong when you see the tangible results is not adding up for the core of the population. The quality of life, and the too much inexcusable power consolidation speaks for itself in the core of the population has already caught on. So now it's a matter of you remembering that the Declaration of Independence was signed by those in their 20s, and always the greatest updates, the greatest innovations always come from those from the core of populations that are in their 20s. Every civilization, when they get a significant boost, it comes from those in their 20s, who personally lived it, has sufficient personal lived experiences and are living proof. And this is a required overdue reminder and articulation that fellow bright minds are going to be able to add on to. So now, as you reclaim your military, you're going to place a new tangible tool that you're not going to have a back and forth about it. And you don't have to go to any compromised Congress and have to be updated because guess what? Congress answers to the core of the population, and when Congress fails too much, the core of the population has to get on the same page where it counts the most and make a stronger network to counterbalance, get everyone on the same page locally across the major cities. Because your family's in the militaries and your family's in the police, and now you have to get on the same page where it counts the most. That way, you can significantly help the particular civilization.